Hello everyone, this is your channel teacher Dilse. So today I will start with sexual reproduction. So let's begin with sexual reproduction. So sexual reproduction, there is important thing that you already know. There is what? There is involvement of gametes. No? So gametes are involved in them. Okay. Now we know that in case of your reproduction, okay, there is one thing very important, that there is involvement of gametes, and this gametes can be produced by the same individual or different individual. So we will talk about that also. Now due to this involvement of gametes in them, what it is leading to, it is leading to now formation of organisms which are not identical, okay, they are not identical to the parents or even their siblings, okay, so they are not identical, okay, this is very important factor. And you can say this is one of the thing which is leading to what, leading to variation, it is leading to variation in them. So there is lot of variation we can see here in case of sexual reproduction. Then in case of your sexual reproduction, which kind of cell division is responsible for it? It is your meiosis. How? Some or the other we will to see further also, and some or the other meiosis is involved, and meiosis is key to your variation. Okay, so this is your sexual reproduction. Now what are the different kind of, you know about that now individuals, okay, you have heard about organisms like those who are, we also call them as monoecious or bisexual, okay, we also use the term for them as homothelic, okay, we also call them as bisexual organisms. Okay, so they are monoecious. Mono means what? Mono means single. Ecious is their house. So they have got a single house. So on that single individual, you will find what on them, that both male and female organs are present. Okay, like there are various examples of your this homothelic examples are there. So like examples, you can write your coconut, cucurbits, euchara. In case of animals, if I take earthworm, we use the term hermaphrodites for them. Do you remember? Now this is your monoecious, okay, and then comes your what, dioecious. Di means what? Di means two, okay, so we call them as dioecious. Okay, they are heterothelic, and they are what, they are unisexual, okay. So here you will find that they have got, they are dioecious, okay. Di means what? Two houses. Di means what? Two. So they have got two houses, okay. So you find male plant, female plant, male plant, and you will find female plant, separate plants, okay. Like you find male and female individuals, okay, Like heterothelic is in one of the best example of heterothelic you can give is your Markensia. Okay, and unisexual are various organisms are there. Like in animals case, you can give rise to so many organisms. You can name, cat, dog, so many are there, isn't it? So they are all unisexual organisms. Like in case of dioecious, if you say male plant and a female plant, one of the best example is a papaya. You must have seen certain papaya plant that they don't give rise to papaya at all. Why are not they giving rise to papaya? Because they are male plants. So when it is a male plant, it is what having, it is having only flowers, are having only male plants. They are staminate. Okay, they are staminate. Okay, we call them as, they have only stamen in them. Okay, so we call them as staminate. Okay, and those who are having only the female parts, they are called as what? Pistillate. Okay, from the word pistil. Okay, and so I hope this is clear to you people. Now moving on further. um Now, what are the different events? Let's look at the what are the different events that takes place in your sexual reproduction. Now, here you can see in the picture also. This is your kara, which is it is showing you here is your what? It is your kara, okay, which is homothelic. As you can see, both the male and female parts are there. Okay, so you can see that here, and here is the diagram of your Markensia. Okay, it is from your NCERT only taken, and they are what? They are heterothelic. Okay, now moving on to the um, let's move on to our, what are the different here now events. Let's look at what at the process of sexual reproduction. We can say events in sexual, or you can also say processes in sexual reproduction. Okay, so let's move on. So first event of your sexual reproduction is what? It's the formation of gametes, isn't it? That is, it involves gametogenesis and gamete transfer. Okay, that is, we call it as pre-fertilization event. We can divide it into pre-fertilization event, and then we can divide it into fertilization, and then we can divide it into what? Post-fertilization event. Now let's look at each event, what is happening. Okay, so in this pre-fertilization event, you can divide under two categories. What are those? That is your gametogenesis, okay, and then is your gamete transfer. How it is getting transferred, we will look at it. Then fertilization is there. Okay, that is fusion of your gametes. Okay, so under that category also we will look at that the fertilization could be both external and internal. It could be both. It is of two types: external fertilization, and the another is internal fertilization. Okay, now coming to post-fertilization event, that involves what? That involves embryogenesis. That is the formation of an embryo. Okay, so these are the major processes. So first I will talk about your gametogenesis. So let's move towards gametogenesis. So in case of your this gametogenesis, now this gametogenesis, no? It's the formation of gametes. Now in class 11th, I will just go back and try to connect you people what you have read earlier, because in biology this connection is very important. If you are have to build your concept, then you should know how to you are able to connect your topics. Okay, so gametogenesis is formation of gametes. Now there are basically three type of gametogenesis which you have read. One is your zygotic, meiosis we call. Why we call it, we will see that. Okay, that is also we can say that it is, okay, once I will tell you, then I will tell you. Then there is a gametic meiosis. Okay, and another is your sporic. Okay, now coming to these, zygote meiosis, one of the best example of zygotic uh, meiosis. We also called it as haplontic life cycle, if you remember. Life cycle. Okay, one of the best example is your chlamydomonas, and we see this kind of cycle in haploid organisms. Okay, okay, now coming to this, in this case what is happening, let's look at what is happening in that case. Now you have got um, here the organisms are what, haploid. So if I make a chlamydomonas for you, okay, so these are the organisms. Okay, now they are having n number of chromosomes. I hope the term haploid is clear, that they have only one set of chromosomes. Now these organisms which are haploid, now suppose this is your minus strain and this is the plus strain. Now you know that these two different strains, they act as gametes and they fuse together and they form what? Zygote. They are acting as gametes and they fuse together and they form your zygote, which is 2n. Okay, now this zygote stage is very short-lived stage. Okay, it is very short-lived stage, and this zygote by meiosis, okay, by meiosis, it will give rise to your chlamydomonas. Okay, it will give rise to your chlamydomonas. So mostly, and these chlamydomonas, they will divide what, and give rise to chlamydomonas by asexual method. Okay, so mostly they are doing what, mostly these organisms, you know that they reproduce asexually, you know, by which kind of division, by your which kind of division, by your mitosis. So they divide by mitosis. So they divide by mitosis and they keep on giving rise to same kind of individuals using this asexual method of reproduction. And when they go under this condition, whenever they find there is an unfavorable condition, so these two different kind of strains, plus and minus, they fuse together and form the zygote, and which is a very short-lived stage, remember. And you must have heard the term also, zygospore. So the zygote is when it's having a coating, and during that unfavorable conditions it has to survive, because it leads to variation. So remember, why under unfavorable condition they are going for meiosis? Because it is leading to variation. So now under that changing environment, they need a variant which can survive. Okay, say they undergo zygote, and that short-lived stage is known as what? it is known as zygospore. That short-lived stage is known as zygospore. Okay, this is known as zygospore. So many times people confuse with zoospore and zygospore. Zoospore is your motile haploid asexual spore, whereas zygospore is your zygote. Okay, and it is diploid. Okay, and it's not a spore. Why? Mostly you remember the spore are haploid. They are zygospore because they are getting a coated and they're short-lived for that time, and when they divide and they give rise to your this, isn't it? It's not that they will fall, they will germinate, and it's not that way as happening with spores. Okay, so this is called as zygotic meiosis or haplontic life cycle. Now moving on to your gametic meiosis. So coming towards your gametic meiosis. So let's look at gametic meiosis. Now, in case of gametic meiosis, or you can also call it as we can also call it as diplontic life cycle. Okay, diplomatic life cycle. Okay. Now, this is like with our case, like humans, no? It's diplontic. Why? Because here the individual is what? 2N. Okay? The individual, the organism is 2N. Okay? Or you can say there is a term which has been used that is called as sporophyte. Okay? For plants we use that term, isn't it? So sporophyte. Now what is happening? There are 2N, and now these organisms, they now they have got what? Gonads, or their reproductive cells, you can say. They have got reproductive cells which by now these cells, these reproductive cells or meiocytes, you can say them, they will divide via meiosis, and these are, remember, these are 2N, and they will give rise to your what? Gametes, and these gametes are N. Okay, and they will give rise to gametes. So male and female gametes, they will fuse together. Okay, so there is another gamete. So I can make here two type of gametes. That is, one is your male fusing with your this is your male gamete fusing with your female gamete and forming again the organism. Okay, it is giving rise to the organism. So this is your they are fusing and giving rise to the organism. So this is your what? This is your diplontic life cycle. Why we are calling it as diplontic life cycle? Because majority, if you look, let me highlight it. Just if you look at now, majority of time the organism is spending in this 2N stage. Okay, this gametes are formed, like in our case, in the gonads, fusion takes place, and then the young one downwards. Okay, so this is called as gametic meiosis or diplontic life cycle. Now moving on to, now coming towards your sporic meiosis. And we call this cycle as what? Haplodiplontic life cycle. We also call it as haplodiplontic life cycle. Okay, you see majority of your mosses and pteridophytes, they show this haplodiplontic life cycle. In some the haploid stage will be dominant, and in some the diploid stage will be dominant. In them, what is happening? You can see here that your sporic meiosis we are saying. So what is happening in this case? Suppose I start, there is a 2n condition. Okay, here this 2n condition, now the stage which is your sporophyte stage, sporophyte stage, it is what doing? Now it is producing sporangium, and under that sporangium the meiosis is taking place. Okay, and this meiosis is producing what? It is producing spores. Okay, now these spores are haploid, are N. Okay, now they germinate. Okay, and they give rise to what? Gametophyte, which is your photosynthetic phase. Okay, now these gametophyte, they form what? Two kind of gametes. Okay, they give rise to two kinds of gametes, that is your female gamete and your male gamete. Okay, female and male gamete, and remember they are what? They are N. They are haploid because gametophyte is N. Now these gametes in them are formed by which process of division? By mitosis. Okay, here already meiosis has taken place when the spores are of different types in them. Okay, and they give rise to gametophyte. From there these cells, they give rise to two different kinds of. Now on that gametophyte only you will find that they have got antheridium and archegonium, which gives rise by a Y mitosis to your gametes. What are they? They are your gametes. And now these gametes, they will fuse together and they will give rise to your zygote, and which will develop into your sporophyte. So this is called as haplodiplontic life cycle. Okay, or sporic meiosis. So these are the different now kinds of meiosis. We have seen that these are the different ways by which your gametes are being produced. Now we will move towards gamete transfer. So let's start with gamete transfer. Gamete transfer. Uh, Basically, gamete transfer, it requires what? It requires a medium, and you know that life arose in water, so water is acting as a medium for transfer of your gametes. Okay, now there are basically, you know, there are two type of gametes. What are they? Isogametes. One of the best example is your chlamydomonas. As you know that iso means what? Same. They are same in their what? Same in their structurally they are same. Okay, structurally and physiologically. You cannot say that this is male, female, you know. You can say like in chlamydomonas, if you look, they are what? They appear you to be same. Okay, now in them we call them as plus and minus strain. Okay, plus and minus, because the genes that they carry, they are different. Okay, and if I now talk about heterogametes, we call them as heterogametes, or also we call them as anisogametes. It means the same thing, that is there. They are hetero means different, aniso means different. Okay, so the same thing is there, heterogametes or anisogametes. They are what? They same? No, they are different. They are different structurally and physiologically. Okay, so it is different. Okay, like you must have seen, example is given in your NCERT also, that is fucus, and the best example is your humans, where you see the egg is laden with food, okay, and the sperms travel up till the egg. Now, gamete transfer, I told you for lower organisms it is basically your water. You must have seen in aquatic organisms also, and even the amphibians which who are moving towards land, they require water, and therefore their life cycle is not complete without water. And even with your bryophytes, pteridophytes, you have seen that their life cycle is not complete without water. Okay, so what do we see in them? That whenever there is not uh, transfer is required, like in case of completely terrestrial organisms I'm talking about. If I talk about completely terrestrial organisms, then in them, like you have heard about pollination in case of plants. So pollen moves, not gets transferred by insects, by winds. Now what happens to that pollen when it falls? It how that male gamete reaches till the egg? It via your pollen tube. है ना? So they have developed this pollen tube, which is again a great evolution you can say, where the pollen male gamete is reaching through pollen tube. And in case of terrestrial animals, what you find that they directly insert no, the gamete into the female body. That is your internal fertilization is taking place. Okay, when there is an external fertilization, then you need a meat, then you require a medium. Okay, but when there is an internal fertilization, you don't require any medium. Okay, now moving on towards uh, so fertilization is also known as syngamy. See, these two terms you can use it interchangeably. Okay, fertilization is what? Here it is what? It is fusion of gametes, isn't it? Male and female gametes is called as your fertilization. Now, the what is the end product of fertilization? What do you get out of it? You get zygote, isn't it? From fertilization. Now, what this fertilization you can divide it into two types. What are they? They are your external fertilization and internal fertilization. Like external fertilization, example, one of the is your frogs, fishes, isn't it? Internal fertilization to so many animals, you know, cat, dogs, humans, so many. They show what, even your plants, they show a lot of internal fertilization. Now, if you look at this, so here you can give examples of your humans. Okay, plants are there. Plants like your, you can give gymnosperm, है ना? So many are there, है ना? Even your pteridophytes, they are all your examples of internal fertilization. Now, in case of your external fertilization, see, they are under a threat to environmental conditions. So, lot of environmental factors are there. Factors, na, which will affect na, the process. Many they will be eaten up. Predation is one of the major thing they are going to suffer from. So in this case of external fertilization, what do we see? That they produce large number of number and all, both I have fused together, number of gametes. Okay, so they produce large number of gametes. Number of gametes. Okay, so this is the thing, they produce large number of gametes, whereas in case of your internal fertilization, okay, they don't produce large number of gametes, they produce less number. They are giving what? Protected environment. Okay, they give a protected environment. Okay, so to assure that the zygote is formed, they produce large number of gametes, at least some of them fuse and they get a zygote from it. Okay, now uh, there is another thing, I don't know, it's not given in your NCERT, but still I'm telling you, it is called as neoteny. Neoteny. What is neoteny? In case of neoteny, even now you know that ki adults are reproductively active. Now, mature ones are reproductively active. But in case of where there are certain larval forms, okay, larval forms which are reproductively active. So that case is called as neoteny, when a larva is reproductively active. One of the best example is your axolotl larva, and another is your salamander, that is ambastuma. Okay, this is an amphibian. Okay, this is about fertilization. So let's start with embryogenesis. As you know, genesis means what? Formation. So what is it? It is the formation of embryo. It is the formation of embryo. Now there are basically two processes which is taking place. That is your cell division and another is cell differentiation. When I was telling you regeneration, I told you about cell differentiation. What is cell differentiation? Cell division takes place, then only your body will grow. Na? And now, in case of embryogenesis, one of the major steps is your cell differentiation. From a single zygote, your entire body is formed. So many different kind of cells are formed. Now, these now that is, I told you that there is a undifferentiated cells initially. Okay, now these cells have the capacity to give rise to various other kind of cells. They can give rise to your bone cell, they can give rise to your muscle cell, blood cell, so many cells they can give rise to. So those undifferentiated cells are giving these differentiated cells, or rather you can say them as what? Specialized cells. No, they are specialized in their function, in their role. Muscle won't do the function of your blood, okay, and bone won't do the function of your blood, isn't it? So they are specialized to do their function. They do that particular function, okay. So that is the important thing that is taking place in embryogenesis, and it's a highly complex process. Remember that. Okay, now there are different categories of animals, like some of them, as you know, that they are oviparous. Oviparous means they are they are laying what? They are laying the eggs. They are laying eggs. Anna? Like your birds and all, hens, all they are laying eggs, isn't it? So they are oviparous. Then comes your what? Then comes your viviparous. That is, this is a feature which is to mammals. They give birth to young ones, you know. Okay, and the third one is your which is less heard, that is ovoviviparous. Ovoviviparous. Like in case of certain your uh, this cartilaginous fishes, okay, your cartilaginous fishes, no, you must have heard like sharks and all, okay, they are what, ovoviviparous. Ovoviviparous means what, that the egg develops in their body, okay, and when it is about to, no, the young one is able to about to come out, at that time they lay egg and this the young one comes out, or the young ones directly come out from that egg. Okay, so the development is taking place inside the egg only, okay, but that egg is within the mother's body. Okay, so that condition is called as what, ovoviviparous. So some of the organisms, they show this ovoviviparous condition, like your sharks. Okay, so with this I would like to end the session, and thank you. God bless you all. We will meet with the next topic in the next session. Thank you.